Good morning, everybody. I feel like I know half of you in this room. And I'm pretty sure you're sick of hearing me speak for the third and fourth and fifth time. Yeah, thanks a lot. All right, I'll be pretty brief today, especially since I don't have one of my long slideshows, so you can be very grateful about that. A couple of things we're going to talk about, and we've talked about them multiple times. Hopefully these have all been resolved, but this is your last stop right here. We're going to talk about wills and powers of attorney first. The first thing is powers of attorney. What are they? They're basically designed so that you can leave somebody else in charge of your affairs while you're gone. Now, we can make them as broad and give somebody a lot of power, or we can make them very narrow and really limit the person's power that you're giving whatever to. Me personally, and this is my opinion as an attorney, I think general powers of attorney are a bad thing. I think they are a little dangerous unless you have a very particular situation. I do encourage special powers of attorney, though, and I'll give you some examples of why I encourage them. The first one would be if you need to sell some property while you're gone, or a vehicle. We can definitely take care of that for you today. We'll do a special power of attorney, and we can leave that power to sell your interest in a home or a vehicle to your brother or your mom or your wife. Another thing would be if you have a child that has any type of special needs, and that child's going to need some sort of medical care while you're gone that may require consent from both parents. Again, I can take care of that for you today. We'll do a special power of attorney. A lot of people ask me, they say, well, my commander told me that I need a general power of attorney. While the commanders are obviously looking out for the best interests of their soldiers, I think while you're overseas, if something does come up that you didn't have the foresight to handle here today because it just wasn't a situation yet, that is something that can be handled overseas. There's plenty of useless JAGs like myself running around overseas, especially in Kuwait. And I say that because I have friends there. Next thing, wills. Wills are kind of tricky. There's a couple of different ways that you can do a will. One, we can do a will that has a trust built into it if you wanted to leave property to a minor child and you don't trust the guardian of that child to properly administer that child's property for them. Another way is just a regular will where we can say, I want my vehicle to go to my brother and I want all my money to go to my sister. I will tell you, though, that if you are not married and you do not have any children, a will probably is not necessary unless you have some very particular requests. If something, God forbid, were to happen to you and you weren't married and you didn't have any children, everything is going to go back to your parents. Plain and simple. If you are married and you do have children, all the property that you've acquired during your course of your marriage is going to go to your children along with your separate property. But your spouse will have use of that property, of the property that was part of your marriage during, like, for the rest of her life or until she remarries. So let's say an example would be you're married, you have a little baby, and you guys just bought a house, and God forbid something happens to you while you're gone. Well, what happens with the house? It's pretty simple. The house actually belongs to the baby. That 18-month-old owns that house. However, your spouse has use of the home. In other words, she has the right to live in the home, she has the right to rent it out, she just can't sell it. And that continues during the course of her life or until she remarries. So that'll give you an example. So in other words, nothing changes aside from your absence. But your wife will still have full functioning power she can remodel the house, she can pretty much do anything she wants with it. And she will also own half of that house in her own right. I'm just talking about the half that you own. So those are two different, I knew that wasn't mine. So that's a little bit on wills and powers of attorney. And so if you have questions today, I will be set up. I'm not sure exactly where I will be set up today, but I'd be happy to answer those types of issues for you. Next thing I want to talk to you about, a lot of you are employed right now and you're not necessarily employed full-time with the Guard. If you have questions about talking to your employer about your deployment, their reaction, what rights do you have to come back to your job and the position that you were in before you left? Are you going to be able to promote while you're gone? I can answer those questions for you today. I'd be happy to do that. You are well protected by federal law. Another thing I want to talk to you about, for all of you who are doing this deployment and it is not exactly helping your financial situation. You make more money in the civilian sector than you do in the military sector, although deployments pay pretty well. There is a interest cap that we can put on some of your financing. If you have like a car that's financed and it's over 6% and you're going to be making less money on deployment, we can send a letter to your consumer or to the lender and let them know that your financial status is being adversely impacted. by this deployment, and we can hopefully get your interest rate knocked down to 6%. That's another little piece of federal law that kind of helps you out. The last thing I want to talk to you about is if you have any type of family law matters while you're gone. You've got questions about a divorce, you're contemplating a divorce, you have some custody issues going on that are going on that are going to be happening while you're gone. You can authorize an attorney to go to those for you, or you can get a stay of those proceedings. And I can tell you what to, explain to your attorney about what you're doing, and help them get that in effect for you so that when you come back, nothing will have changed, and hopefully you guys can then pick up where you left off in court. Anyways, I hope to see a lot of you today, all for good reasons. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to make myself available. I'll be here all day today, and I look forward to helping you. And thank you again for everything that you guys are doing for us and for the sacrifice you're making. Thanks.